Dr. Elena Vasquez rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the computer screen. It was 3 in the morning, and she was alone in the radio telescope control room. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she did not care. Something strange was happening, in the data, and she could not look away. The Green Bank telescope had been scanning deep space for months. Elena and her team were part of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence project. Most nights, they found nothing but cosmic noise. Radio waves from distant stars, solar wind, and the endless chatter of space. But tonight was different. Hidden in the background noise was a pattern, not the kind of pattern that came from natural sources like pulsars or black holes. This was something else, something made by intelligence. Elena called up the audio file and played it through her headphones. Most radio signals from space sounded like static or whistles. This one had a rhythm. Short bursts, long pauses, then groups of quick pulses. It reminded her of Morse code, but far more complex. She ran the signal through the computer analysis programs. The results made her heart race. The signal showed mathematical relationships. Prime numbers appeared in sequence. Then came the Fibonacci sequence. After that, the first few digits of pi. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This is really it." But as Elena studied the signal more, she noticed something odd. The transmission was not aimed at Earth. The radio waves were traveling in a straight line toward a different part of the galaxy. Earth just happened to be in the path, like someone overhearing a phone call meant for someone else. Elena picked up her phone and called Dr. Marcus Chen, her research partner. The phone rang 6 times before Marcus answered. "Elena, do you know what time it is?" "Marcus, you need to get down here right now. I found something. Can it wait until morning?" "No, it cannot wait. Marcus, I think we just intercepted an alien message, and I do not think it was meant for us." 20 minutes later, Marcus arrived at the control room. His hair was messy, and he wore a wrinkled shirt over his pajamas. Elena showed him the data on the main screen. Marcus studied the patterns for several minutes without speaking. Finally, he looked at Elena with wide eyes. "Where is this signal coming from?" Elena pointed to the star map on the wall. "The source is about 47 light-years from here, but look at the trajectory." She traced a line with her finger. "It is aimed at a solar system about 12 light-years past us." "So we are listening in on someone else's conversation?" "That is what I think. The signal is too focused to be a general broadcast. It is point-to-point communication, like a radio message between 2 specific locations." Marcus sat down heavily in a chair. "Have you told anyone else about this?" "Not yet. I wanted to be sure first." They spent the next hour analyzing the data together. The signal was definitely artificial. It contained too many mathematical patterns to be natural. But the most interesting part was what came at the end of the transmission. "Look at this section," Elena said, highlighting a portion of the data. "These patterns repeat every few minutes, but they change slightly each time." Marcus leaned closer to the screen. "It looks like some kind of protocol, like a computer handshake." "That is what I thought too, like someone is trying to establish a connection. But there is more." Elena pulled up another screen. "I ran this through our best decryption software. I cannot read the message, but I can see the structure. There are coordinates embedded in here, star positions, and what looks like a timestamp." "A timestamp for what?" "I think it is a meeting. Someone is telling someone else where and when to meet." Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. The desert around the radio telescope was quiet and dark. Above them, millions of stars shone in the clear air. "Elena, do you understand what this means? If you are right, we just accidentally intercepted the first confirmed alien communication in human history." "I know, but there is a problem." "What problem?" Elena turned back to her computer. "I ran a simulation of the signal path. Based on the transmission power and the distance, this message should have been impossible for us to detect. Our equipment is not sensitive enough." "Then how did we hear it?" "That is the strange part. The signal got amplified somehow, like it bounced off something and got stronger instead of weaker." Marcus frowned. "What could do that?" "I do not know. But whatever amplified the signal, It also changed our position relative to the transmission. The aliens think they are sending a private message to their friend. But because of this amplification effect, we can hear it too. So we are accidentally spying on alien communications? That is exactly what we are doing. Elena and Marcus worked through the night, double-checking their findings. By morning, they were certain. They had intercepted a message between two alien civilizations. The message contained coordinates, timestamps, and what appeared to be some kind of meeting protocol. The sun rose over the desert. Elena faced a difficult choice. Government regulations required her to report any potential alien contact immediately. But she knew what would happen if she called the authorities. The military would take over the project. Scientists would be locked out. The discovery would disappear into classified files. "What are we going to do?" Marcus asked. Elena looked at the data one more time. Somewhere out there, alien beings were planning to meet. They had accidentally revealed their existence to humanity, but they did not know that humans had heard their message. "We are going to keep listening," Elena said, "and we are going to figure out what they are planning." She did not tell Marcus about the other idea forming in her mind. The signal contained a communication protocol. If they could decode it properly, they might be able to send a message back. They could let the aliens know that Earth had received their transmission. The question was whether humanity was ready to announce its presence to the galaxy, and whether the aliens would be happy to discover that someone else had been listening to their private conversation. 3 weeks had passed since Elena discovered the alien signal. She had assembled a small team of trusted scientists from around the world. They worked in secret, sharing data through encrypted channels and meeting in video calls during odd hours. The team had made progress. Dr. Sarah Kim from Seoul had cracked part of the mathematical code. Professor James Wright from Oxford had identified the star systems mentioned in the coordinates. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Tokyo had built a computer model of the communication protocol. But Elena was growing frustrated. Every day that passed was another day the government might discover their work. Worse, the alien signal had stopped transmitting after that first night. Whatever meeting the aliens were planning, it was getting closer. Elena sat in her office, staring at printouts of the decoded message. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Government inspection team coming tomorrow. Someone talked." Elena's blood went cold. If the authorities found their research, everything would be classified. The discovery would disappear into military files. Humanity's first contact with aliens would be handled by politicians and generals instead of scientists. She grabbed her secure phone and called an emergency meeting with her team. "We are out of time," Elena told the 5 faces on her computer screen. "The government is going to shut us down tomorrow. What do you want to do?" asked Sarah from Seoul. It was early morning there and she looked tired. "I want to respond to the signal." The video call went silent. Elena could see the shock on her colleagues' faces. James spoke first. "Elena, that is incredibly dangerous. We do not know who these aliens are or what they want." "We know they are planning some kind of meeting," Elena replied. "And we know they do not expect anyone else to be listening. If we are going to make contact, this might be our only chance." "The protocol we decoded," said Yuki. "I think I can use it to send a message, but Elena, once we do this, there is no taking it back." "I know. But think about what happens if we do nothing. The government takes over. They classify everything. Maybe they try to make contact later. Maybe they do not. But it will not be our choice anymore." Sarah leaned forward on her screen. "What kind of message are you thinking about?" Elena had been planning this for days. "Something simple. We use their own protocol to identify ourselves. We tell them we received their transmission by accident. We let them know that Earth exists and that humans are here." "That could start a war," Marcus said quietly. "Or it could start a friendship," Elena replied. "We will never know if we do not try." The team voted. 3 scientists supported Elena's plan. 2 opposed it. Elena made the final decision. "We send the message tonight." Elena and Marcus worked through the evening, programming the radio telescope to transmit using the alien protocol. Yuki had provided them with the correct signal format. Sarah had helped translate basic mathematical concepts into the alien number system. The message was simple but clear. It identified Earth's location using the same coordinate system the aliens used. It stated that humans had received the original transmission. It asked for peaceful contact. At 11:30 that night, Elena stood in the control room with her finger hovering over the transmission button. Marcus stood beside her, along with 3 other team members who had flown in secretly. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus asked. Elena thought about all the reasons not to send the message. The aliens might be hostile. Earth might not be ready for contact. The government would be furious. Her career would be over. But she also thought about all the reasons to send it. This was humanity's chance to reach out to the stars, to prove that humans were intelligent, curious, and peaceful, to take the first step toward joining a larger community of beings in the galaxy. "I am sure," Elena said. She pressed the button. The radio telescope turned toward the coordinates from the original signal. For 3 minutes, it broadcast Elena's message using the alien protocol. The transmission was sent at maximum power, strong, enough to reach across dozens of light years. When it was finished, the control room was quiet. "What happens now?" asked one of the team members. "Now we wait," Elena said. "And we prepare for the consequences." The next morning, the government inspection team arrived at the radio telescope facility. They were led by a stern man in a black suit who introduced himself as Agent Collins from the National Security Agency. "Dr. Vasquez," Agent Collins said, "we understand you have been conducting unauthorized research into extraterrestrial communications." Elena had prepared for this moment. "I do not know what you mean. Please do not make this difficult. We know about your team. We know about the signal you discovered, and we know about the message you sent last night." Elena felt her heart sink. Someone had been monitoring their communications. The government had known about their work all along. "You made a serious mistake," Agent Collins continued. "Unauthorized contact with extraterrestrial intelligence is a matter of national security. You have potentially endangered every person on Earth." "We used peaceful protocols," Elena protested. "The message was harmless." "That is not for you to decide. From now on, this facility is under government control. Your research is classified. You and your team are not to discuss this matter with anyone." Elena watched as government technicians began removing her equipment. Months of work disappeared into unmarked boxes. Her computers were wiped clean. The alien signal data was copied and taken away. But Elena was not completely defeated. Before the inspection, she had hidden copies of the most important data. She had uploaded encrypted files to servers around the world. The alien protocol, the star coordinates, and the mathematical keys were safely stored where the government could not find them. As Agent Collins escorted her from the facility, Elena looked up at the radio telescope one last time. Somewhere in space, her message was traveling toward the alien civilizations. In a few decades, it would reach them. For better or worse, humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy. Elena had made sure that first contact would not be controlled by governments alone. Other scientists around the world now had access to the alien protocols. If the aliens responded, humanity would be ready. Elena smiled as she walked to her car. The government thought they had stopped her. They were wrong. The message was already sent and the data was already free. Now they just had to wait for an answer. 3 months after Elena sent the message, everything changed. Elena was working at a small university in Colorado, teaching basic astronomy classes. The government had banned her from any major research facilities, but they could not stop her from teaching. She tried to live a normal life, but every night she looked up at the stars and wondered if her message had reached its destination. The answer came on a Tuesday morning. Elena was grading papers when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Marcus's number, but when she answered, his voice was shaking with excitement. "Elena, you need to turn on the news right now." "What is wrong?" "Just turn it on. Any channel." Elena grabbed her remote and turned on the television. Every news channel was showing the same thing. Live footage from the Hubble Space Telescope showed massive objects at the edge of the solar system. Ships, alien ships. The news anchor was trying to stay calm, but Elena could hear the fear in her voice. The objects appeared suddenly this morning. Military officials confirmed they are artificial constructions, approximately 2 kilometers in length. There are 12 of them positioned in a formation around the outer planets. Elena's phone rang again. This time it was Sarah from Seoul. Elena, did you see the news? I am watching it now. They came because of our message. This is our fault. Elena felt a mix of excitement and terror. The aliens had received her transmission. They had traveled across space to find Earth. But why had they come with so many ships? And why had they positioned themselves like they were preparing for war over? The next few hours, more details emerged. The alien ships were not moving toward Earth. They were holding position near Neptune, as if they were waiting for something. Radio telescopes around the world detected signals coming from the ships, but the transmissions were encrypted. Then, 18 hours after the ships appeared, they sent a message to Earth. The transmission came on the same frequency Elena had used for her original response. It used the same mathematical protocol her team had decoded, but this message was much longer and more complex. Elena was not officially involved in the government's response team, but Marcus called her with updates. He was working with a group of scientists and military officials trying to decode the alien message. What does it say? Elena asked. It is a formal communication, very structured. They identify themselves as representatives of something called the hegemony. They want to establish contact with Earth's leaders. That sounds good. Elena, there is more. They specifically mention the message you sent. They want to know who authorized the transmission and why Earth responded to a signal. That was not meant for us. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The aliens were not happy that humans had intercepted their private communication. 2 days later, the first face-to-face meeting took place on a space station that the aliens constructed in Earth's orbit. The station appeared overnight, built by machines that emerged from the alien ships. It was a clear demonstration of their advanced technology. Elena watched the meeting on live television along with billions of other people around the world. The alien representative was humanoid but clearly not human. It stood over 7 feet, tall with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. It wore a uniform that seemed to be made of metal and fabric woven together. The alien introduced itself as Captain HFY of the Hegemony Science Council. It spoke perfect English, apparently, having learned the language from Earth's broadcasts. We come in peace, Captain HFY said, but we must address a serious matter. 3 months ago, we received an unauthorized transmission from your world. This transmission responded to a private communication between members of the hegemony. Such interception is unprecedented in galactic history. The human representative was President Williams, flanked by scientists and military advisors. She looked nervous but determined. We meant no harm, President Williams said. Our scientists detected your signal by accident. They responded out of curiosity and a desire for peaceful contact. Captain HFY studied the humans for a long moment. Your species was not scheduled for contact for another 47 years. The hegemony has protocols for introducing new civilizations to galactic society. These protocols exist for good reasons. What kind of reasons? To ensure that new species are ready for the responsibility of interstellar communication. To prevent chaos and misunderstanding. To protect both new species and established members of the galactic community. Elena felt her heart racing as she watched the conversation. The aliens were talking about humanity like they were children who had misbehaved. President Williams seemed to have the same reaction. We are not children. Humanity has developed space travel, advanced mathematics, and complex technology. We are ready for contact. That remains to be determined, Captain HFY replied. The signal you intercepted was meant for the Kethvar, a species that has recently joined the hegemony as a client civilization. The message granted them permission to expand their territory into this region of space. This region? You mean our solar system? Yes. The Kethvar were to establish a mining operation in your asteroid belt and outer planets. Your world was not considered inhabited by intelligent life. The room went silent. Elena stared at the television screen in shock. The aliens had been planning to give away Earth's solar system to another species. They had not even bothered to check if anyone lived there. President Williams stood up from her chair. You were going to let another species take our solar system without even asking if we existed? Standard protocol for systems showing no signs of advanced civilization, Captain HFY said calmly. Your radio emissions were too weak and too recent to be detected by our surveys. But we are here, we do exist, and we have every right to our own solar system. Captain HFY made a gesture that might have been the alien equivalent of a shrug. Your existence creates a complication. The Kethvar have already made preparations for expansion. Contracts have been signed. Territory has been allocated. Then you will have to unallocate it. It is not that simple. The hegemony operates on laws and agreements that have existed for thousands of years. We cannot simply cancel arrangements, because an unexpected species objects. Elena realized what was happening. The aliens were not evil or hostile, but they were bureaucrats. They had a system, and humanity did not fit into that system. Earth's existence was an inconvenience that complicated their carefully planned galactic order. The meeting continued for several hours, but the main points were clear. The hegemony had not expected to find intelligent life on Earth. They had already promised Earth's solar system to another species, and they were not sure what to do about the conflict. As Elena watched Captain HFY explain the hegemony's position, she realized something important. The aliens were powerful and advanced, but they were not prepared for a species that refused to follow their rules. Humanity had accidentally crashed into a galactic civilization that operated on strict protocols and careful planning. Earth's very existence was proof that their system was flawed. Elena smiled as she turned off the television. The aliens thought they had a problem because humans had heard a message they were not supposed to hear. They had no idea how much bigger their problem was about to become. The negotiations had been going on for 2 weeks. Elena watched the daily broadcast from the space station with growing frustration. The hegemony representatives spoke in circles, using complex legal language to avoid making any real decisions. Captain HFY had been joined by other officials. There was Administrator Velthon, who seemed to be a lawyer of some kind. Commander Kixmal represented the military. Each alien spoke about protocols, precedents, and proper procedures. The humans were getting angry. Elena could see it in President Williams's face during the televised meetings. The president had started bringing different advisors each day. Military, generals, scientists, economists, and diplomats all tried to reason with the aliens. Nothing worked. The hegemony's position was simple. They had rules. The rules said that uninhabited solar systems could be allocated to client species. Earth had not been classified as inhabited when the allocation was made. Therefore, the allocation was legal and binding. But we are here, President Williams said for the 100th time. We exist. We have built a civilization. This is our home. Administrator. Velthon consulted a tablet-like device. According to Hegemony Survey Protocol 7 Alpha, a system is considered inhabited only if it contains a species that has achieved interstellar travel or has been formally contacted by hegemony representatives. We have sent probes to other planets. We have a space station. We have satellites. Interplanetary travel is not the same as interstellar travel. Your species has not left your solar system. Elena wanted to scream at the television. The aliens were using technicalities to avoid dealing with the real problem. They did not want to admit that their system was flawed. On the 15th day of negotiations, something changed. Elena was watching the morning session when she noticed that Captain HFY looked nervous. The alien kept glancing at a communication device on its wrist. President Williams was in the middle of another argument about human rights when Captain HFY interrupted. We must pause this discussion. I have received urgent communications from the Hegemony Council. What kind of communications? Captain HFY hesitated. It appears that your species has been busy during our negotiations. What does that mean? Perhaps it would be better if you explained what your scientists have been doing. President Williams looked confused. Our scientists have been Studying your technology and language just as we agreed? Yes, and they have been doing more than that. Elena felt a surge of excitement. She had been wondering what Marcus and the other researchers were doing with the alien protocols she had preserved. Apparently they had been busy. Captain HFY activated a holographic display. It showed a map of nearby star systems. Several systems were blinking with red warning lights. 3 days ago, we began receiving transmissions from 17 different star systems. All of these transmissions used proper hegemony communication protocols. All of them claimed to be from Earth. President Williams stared at the display. That is impossible. We do not have the technology to reach other star systems. No, you do not, but you do have radio telescopes, and your scientists have apparently learned to broadcast using our communication standards. Elena started laughing. She understood what had happened. Marcus and the other researchers had used Elena's hidden data to contact alien civilizations directly. They had bypassed the hegemony entirely. Captain HFY continued. Your scientists have been broadcasting to every star system within 50 light-years of Earth. They are using our own protocols to introduce your species to civilizations that have never heard of the hegemony. Is that a problem? It is a catastrophe. The hegemony maintains order by controlling first contact between species. When new civilizations meet, we ensure that interactions are peaceful and beneficial. Your random broadcasts are creating chaos. Administrator Veltan was typing frantically on its device. We have received complaints from 14 different species. They want to know why the hegemony authorized contact with an unknown civilization. They are demanding explanations. Elena realized what the humans had done. They had turned the hegemony's own system against them. By using proper protocols to contact other species, the human researchers had made it look like the hegemony had approved the communications. Furthermore, Captain HFY said, your scientists have been sharing technical information. They have sent mathematical formulas, scientific theories, and even entertainment broadcasts to alien civilizations. What is wrong with that? You are contaminating their cultural development. Some of these species are not ready for advanced mathematics. Others have strict religious prohibitions against certain types of music. Elena could barely contain her laughter. Humanity had accidentally started a galactic cultural exchange program. Commander Kicksmall spoke for the first time during the negotiations. Most concerning is the response from the Kethvar, the species that was supposed to colonize our solar system. Yes, they received your broadcasts and have demanded a meeting with Earth representatives. They want to negotiate directly with your species for mining rights. President Williams smiled. That sounds reasonable. It is not reasonable. Client species are not authorized to negotiate independently. All agreements must be approved by the Hegemony Council. But they want to talk to us directly, which violates Hegemony Protocol 12 Beta regarding client species autonomy. Elena realized that the humans had created a perfect storm of bureaucratic problems. They had contacted species the hegemony did not want them to meet. They had made the hegemony look incompetent to other civilizations, and they had encouraged a client species to act independently. The negotiations paused while the hegemony representatives held emergency consultations. Elena watched as the aliens argued among themselves in their own language. They gestured frantically and seemed to be having a heated disagreement. When they returned to the negotiation table, Captain HFY looked exhausted. The Hegemony Council has reviewed the situation. Your species has created unprecedented complications in galactic relations. We were just trying to make friends, President Williams said innocently. Your efforts have resulted in 17 formal complaints, 6 requests for cultural exchanges, 3 demands for immediate trade negotiations, and 1 marriage proposal. Marriage proposal? The Vexhari find human music irresistible. They have offered to exchange their entire royal family for your jazz musicians. Elena laughed so hard she nearly fell off her couch. Humanity had accidentally become the most popular species in the galaxy, Captain HFY continued. More seriously, your communications have revealed that many species are unhappy with current hegemony policies. Several civilizations have requested direct meetings with Earth to discuss alternatives to the traditional client species system. What does that mean? It means your species has started a revolution without even trying. Elena understood now why the aliens looked so worried. Humanity had not just refused to follow hegemony rules. They had shown other species that the rules could be ignored. The galaxy was about to change, and it was all because humans did what they always did when, faced with authority figures, they found a way around the rules. 6 months after the first alien ships appeared, Elena stood in the United Nations building in New York. She was no longer banned from important work. In fact, she had become one of Earth's most valuable advisors on alien relations. The world had changed completely. The Hegemony space station above Earth now hosted representatives from dozens of different species. What had started as a simple negotiation about mining rights had become the largest diplomatic gathering in galactic history. Elena walked into the main conference room where the final meeting was taking place. Captain HFY sat at one end of a large table, looking tired and defeated. Around the table were representatives from 23 different alien civilizations, all talking at once. The Kethvar delegation was arguing with the Hegemony about mining contracts. The Vexihari were still trying to trade their royal family for jazz musicians. 3 other species were demanding independence from client status. 2 civilizations wanted to establish trade agreements directly with Earth, bypassing hegemony regulations entirely. President Williams sat in the middle of the chaos, smiling calmly. She had learned to enjoy watching the aliens struggle with problems they had created for themselves. Elena took her seat next to Marcus, who was now serving as Earth's chief scientific advisor for alien technology. "How bad is it?" Elena whispered. "For the hegemony? Very bad. For everyone else? This is the best thing that has happened in galactic history." Elena looked around the room. The hegemony had spent thousands of years building a system where they controlled everything. They decided which species could meet each other. They approved all trade agreements. They determined when civilizations were ready for new technology. But humanity had broken that system in 6 months. It had started with Elena's decision to respond to an intercepted message. Then her team had shared the alien protocols with scientists around the world. Those scientists had contacted other species directly, and those species had realized they did not need hegemony permission to talk to each other. Administrator Veltan was reading from a long list of complaints. The Zorgothi want to establish a direct embassy on Earth. The Pelnari are requesting human teachers for their universities. The Thekvor have offered to share their medical technology in exchange for human art. "What is the problem with any of that?" asked President Williams. "These agreements require hegemony approval. There are procedures. There are forms to fill out. There are compatibility studies that must be completed." "How long do those procedures usually take?" Captain HFY answered reluctantly. "For a new species like yours? Approximately 200 years. 200 years just to get permission to trade art for medicine? The bureaucracy exists for good reasons. Without proper oversight, interspecies contact can lead to cultural contamination, technological disruption, or even war." Elena stood up. She had been quiet for most of the meeting, but now she had something to say. "Captain HFY, in the 6 months since we started talking to other species, has there been any war? Well, no, but any cultural contamination? That depends on your definition of any technological disruptions that have harmed anyone." The alien captain was silent for a moment. "No major incidents have been reported. So in 6 months, humans have accomplished more peaceful contact with alien species than your system normally allows in 2 centuries. And we did it by accident." The room went quiet. Even the arguing aliens stopped talking to listen. Elena continued. "The problem is not that humans do not follow your rules. The problem is that your rules do not work. You are so afraid of things going wrong that you prevent anything from going right." Captain HFY looked around the room at the other alien representatives. Many of them were nodding in agreement. Commander Kiksmal spoke up. "The human makes a valid point. My own species waited 40 years for permission to share our mathematics with the Pelnari. In that time, both civilizations could have benefited from the exchange. Administrator Velthon tried to maintain order. But without proper procedures, we cannot guarantee safety. You cannot guarantee safety anyway, interrupted the Kethvar representative. Your surveys missed an entire intelligent species living in the system you gave us. If humans had not contacted us directly, we would have arrived to find Earth already inhabited. That could have led to a real war. Elena felt a moment of satisfaction. The aliens were starting to understand that their perfect system was not so perfect after all. President Williams stood up. I think it is time to discuss a new arrangement. What kind of arrangement? Asked Captain HFY. The hegemony can keep its rules for species that want to follow them, but other species should be free to interact directly if they choose. Earth will serve as a neutral meeting ground for any civilization that wants to bypass hegemony bureaucracy. The alien representatives began talking excitedly among themselves. Elena could see that many of them liked the idea. Administrator Velthon looked horrified. That would undermine the entire hegemony system. Maybe the system needs to be undermined, said the Vexhari representative. We have been waiting 300 years for approval to contact the Zorgathi. Earth contacted both of us in the same week. Captain HFY was quiet for a long time. Elena could see that the alien was thinking carefully about the situation. Finally, Captain HFY spoke. The Hegemony Council will need to consider this proposal. It represents a fundamental change to galactic governance. Take all the time you need, President Williams said. But while you are considering it, the rest of us will be talking to each other. Over the next few hours, Elena watched as the foundation of galactic civilization shifted. Species that had never been allowed to meet each other began making plans for direct contact. Trade agreements were proposed. Cultural exchanges were arranged. Scientific collaborations were planned. The hegemony representatives sat quietly, realizing that their thousands of years of careful control were ending. Elena felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. They had not conquered the galaxy through superior technology or military force. They had not imposed their will on other species through violence or threats. Instead, they had done something much more powerful. They had shown other civilizations that they did not have to accept limitations imposed by authority figures. They had demonstrated that cooperation and friendship were possible without bureaucratic approval. As the meeting ended and the various alien delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds, Captain HFY approached Elena. Dr. Vasquez, may I ask you a question? Of course. When you first intercepted our signal, did you have any idea what would happen? Elena smiled. Captain, I was just trying to make contact with aliens. I never imagined we would accidentally start a galactic revolution. Your species is remarkable. Most civilizations are content to follow established systems. Humans seem determined to create new ones. We have a saying on Earth: if you do not like the rules, change the game. Captain HFY made a sound that might have been alien laughter. You certainly changed the game. Elena looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, dozens of alien civilizations were making contact with each other for the first time. Trade ships would soon be traveling between worlds that had never communicated before. Scientists would be sharing discoveries across species barriers. All because Elena had heard a signal that was not meant for Earth and decided to answer it anyway. Sometimes the best discoveries happened when you listened to conversations you were not supposed to hear. And sometimes the best changes happened when you refused to ask permission before doing what was right. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place.